Mayfield, possibly out of Cleveland. You want to be a boss? That's how you be a boss. I did. I made a mistake. What a weekend we had. I'm already looking at myself, and I don't like what I see. This is the first time I've got full program right there, and no, I don't like it. But anyway, I'm going to button up here and get going. We are here live on 6th and Peabody in Nashville. I just wanted to say that because I hear the Good Show in the afternoon gets to say that all the time. But what a weekend we had. Couple questions. One, was that an indictment of the Big Ten? I'm not sure it was. I'm not sure it wasn't. They both lost, so let's be honest. When you talk about sports, it's either you win or you lose. And both lost, but I also got to tell you, what a great game. What a great, great weekend. But before we get into all of that, may I just please give a little shout out for the old guys. A couple weeks ago, I came on here and said, yeah, I don't like Tom Brady's body language. Yeah, I don't like Aaron Rodgers. He looks washed. Yeah, I don't think they're doing much. Yeah, okay. Well, it is very often that I am wrong. It is very often that I get things based on one game. Look at and watch going into the playoffs Josh Allen's eyes, because I've talked about the fact that I don't like his eyes, but what the hell do I know? Yesterday, can we give it up for Tom Brady? I mean, look, I understand his team's not great. I understand that they won the worst division in the history of the world, not named the AFC South. And we sit here in Tennessee, in AFC South country, and I, of course, am in Indianapolis with the most embarrassing, worst team in football. However, ladies and gentlemen, you got to give it up, don't you, for Tom Brady? Don't you got to say, wait a second here. Now, this dude, all he did was throw for 432 yards, led his team not once but twice from double-digit deficits in basically a championship game. Win and win. Excuse me, get out the T-shirts. Carolina, Sam Darnold was dealing, but man, oh man, you gotta give it up for the old guy. And I hate to. Actually, I don't hate to, because I like Tom Brady. I'm a fan of Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady is cool, and think about all the stuff that he's going through. You know, a lot of guys get divorced when they don't want to get divorced. I got divorced, and I didn't ask for the divorce, and a lot of guys get into pills or the bottle or whatever. All Tom Brady did was go get better. See, there's a lesson out there for people. There is no sulking. None. Zero zip. Hey, look, somebody wanted to divorce me. Oh, okay. What are you going to do? I'm going to go play football. All right. Somebody wants to leave me. I got to disrupt my family. Well, what are you going to do? I'm going to go do my job. Think about that for just a second. It's hard to do your job when your personal life is in disarray. And then when you add to it, your personal life is on the front page of every freaking magazine in the world, and everybody seems to care, and everybody has an opinion. But I got to tell you, Tom Brady sacked the living heck up. Don't at Tom Brady. Tom Brady played, and Tom Brady played well. And then the other guy, and I'm going to get into this as we go through the NFL, which we're going to do right here. And then I got to get this a ton of college football. But let's be honest, Aaron Rodgers, same thing. Aaron Rodgers always tells people to relax. 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 What are you doing? Relax. We're fine. Guess what? They're fine. Win next week against Detroit, and they're in the playoffs. Not going to be an easy task. But we'll get to that. Patriots and the Dolphins. Let's talk about the Dolphins for just a second. I had a conversation with a couple of ex-NFL coaches. And look, this is old school. This is bad. You're going to get mad because I know the guy, Mike McDaniels, is everybody's little favorite coach. He walks around with his skinny jeans, and who cares? See, to me, I will always say this, and I'll always be wrong in modern NFL and modern life, but I always think toughness wins. I always think you can get softer. You can't get tougher. That's kind of the old school mantra of coaches. Like, look, you come in really tough, and then you can get softer. All right? Well, Mike McDaniel, I don't even say his name right out of disrespect. He's kind of come in. He's been a little giggly guy. I don't know. I don't respect it. So I'm not surprised that they have lost a ton, 5 in a row. No, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that when it gets the toughest, his team has gone away. Now, I get it. I do. I get it. No Tua yesterday. I'm being unfair. Yes, I probably am. Has he made Tua better? Yeah, until lately. Until lately. And then all of a sudden, you know what? Here comes Belichick riding a 4-game losing streak. And I'm not going to give Belichick great credit here because he's clearly lost a divorce. I mean, look, most divorces, there's a winner and there's a loser. Sometimes there's both winners. Well, in the Brady-Belichick divorce, I got to tell you, Brady win, Belichick lose up till right now. Belichick has a chance to go to the playoffs. But look, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, toughness wins in the NFL. And let me address my home team. My home team, the place where I live, Indianapolis. I hate to admit this. In fact, it gives me gas to say it. But Bill Cowher, you were right. When Bill Cowher said, hey, look, man, you need a professional coach in there. And Jeff Saturday tried to tell us all he's a leader of men. He couldn't lead wild turkeys to take a dump. And I'm going to tell you something. Wild turkeys will take a dump without being led. They'll just go take a dump. He couldn't lead wild turkeys to do nothing. 38-10. Now, here in our great city of Indianapolis, everybody's mad because Kevon Thibodeau decided to make snow angels when he knocked the wind out of Nick Foles. Let me tell you a story about Pat Doherty. Pat Doherty was my neighbor. My brother blocked Pat Doherty's punt. He was older than us. I can still hear the boom. Pat Doherty was about 5 years old. He hit my brother right in the stomach, knocked the wind out of him, but it was a great block punt, and we all celebrated while my brother writhed in pain. Who cares? The dude made snow angels. All of my little buddies in the indie media, well, it's classless. No, it's not. Hey, look, you get excited about making a play. You get excited about doing something. And you know what we do now? I think Cahaley will understand this. A guy turns his ankle in NFL football and is laying there. Every guy on his team comes out to midfield and takes a knee. I'm like, get his ass off the field. What are we doing? See, soccer has it right. Soccer, unless it's a back and neck, they bring the card out. They're like, look, there's 80,000 people watching this. We're not waiting on your fat dupaiage to do anything. Get off the field. So Thibodeau is doing snow angels. And everybody is, oh my God, it's so classless. He did 10 full-blown snow angels, and the guy next to him has his stomach, Nick Foles, and I ain't mad at him. And if Thibodeau knew that Nick Foles was hurt, all the better. Zach Kiefer, little writer guy. Indy Star. Thibodeau selling like this while Foles is in serious pain is classless. Serious pain, the little rider guy. He got the wind knocked out of him. And then he walked off. I mean, what do you want me to do? I mean, he got the win. We are the softest, and I refuse. I will not accept it, ladies and gentlemen. I will not accept this softness. Thibodeau, great sack. Foles knocked the wind out. Thibodeau celebrated. Get mad all you want. But that's who the Colts are. The bigger issue for the Colts, and I think most guys and gals that ever played sports will understand, is why didn't any of the Colts offensive linemen jump Thibodeau? That's the bigger question. They just let him make snow angels. Jeez, snow angels. And people losing their minds over snow angels. Are you kidding me? Just stop. You know what? Block him. How about that? Block him. You don't want him knocking your quarterback out? I got a hint for you. You're the highest paid offensive line in the NFL. I'm going to say that again. You're the highest paid offensive line in the NFL. You know what you should do? Block them. There you go. Block them. So right now there's 58 sacks that the Colts line has given up. Now, the world of media gets mad at my friend Ryan Grigson when he was a general manager of the Colts. You know the most Andrew Luck was ever sacked? 41 times. We're at 58 and counting right now, and it is the highest paid offensive line. We are going to talk about Andrew Tate using Twitter We are going to talk about Barbara Walters. We are going to talk about, Gary Hahn, the announcer at North Carolina State, getting suspended for truthfully saying in the land of illegal aliens. And Cahaley said an alien belonging to a foreign country. So what did he say that was wrong? I don't think he said anything that was wrong. But back to the NFL, I got to believe this. I got to believe the Vikings are the biggest fraud going into the NFL playoffs. It pains me to say it. My buddy Grigson is the assistant GM, number 2 in charge of the Vikings. But I got to tell you, last night or yesterday, Aaron Rodgers did Aaron Rodgers things. He just whipped them. He handed it off. Aaron Jones got going. Next thing you know, boom, 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 boom. And ladies and gentlemen, as I sit here in Nash Vegas, getting ready for the showdown of Jacksonville and the Titans for who makes the playoffs, it ain't looking good for the Titans. And they didn't even play yesterday. Jackson, Vegas, they decide they're going to go win 31-3 against Lovie Smith. I can't believe Lovie Smith's going to survive this, but you don't know. Trevor Lawrence, fantastic, 17-21, did not have a touchdown, but I remember telling you all this when Urban Meyer drafted Travis Etienne that was a great draft choice because that's the Deebo Samuel of Jacksonville, and guess what? He went for 108 last night in a big game, caught some. Now Jacksonville takes on the Titans, and the Titans, man, oh man, they better get it figured out. Dobbs or Tannehill, whoever, don't matter. Whoever it is, it does not matter. They're going to have to figure it out. But ladies and gentlemen, the weekend was dominated by this, college football. Georgia and Ohio State. Now, I don't know about anybody in this room if you're looking for a quarterback, but I want C.J. Stroud playing for the Colts. I know he did not play well at all against Michigan, and people were doubting C.J. Stroud. That's why I want C.J. Stroud playing for the Colts. Because C.J. Stroud was doubted, so what did he do? 23 of 34, 348 yards. Won us some money because the over-under was 280. Anyway, and made one of the great touchdown throws you're ever going to see. We can't show it because of all those copyright rules, but he was rolling all over the place. Next thing you know, boom, end zone touchdown. I feel bad for Noah Ruggles. I don't know if you know who Noah Ruggles is, but you look on that board right there. It's Georgia 42, Ohio State 41, and I got to tell you, Noah Ruggles could have made it 44-42 and been an all-time legend. He is the kicker for the Ohio State University, and here's the way I would look at it. This is how I would look at it. When C.J. Stroud scrambled and went down, and it was going to be about a 50-yard field goal. I look at it like a dad. Like I used to legitimately inside die when my son was playing at Ohio State and Michigan. He's at the free throw line in the NCAA tournament, and Ohio State's hanging on to beat South Dakota State with the Dominator, and I'm like, oh, God, just make one. You die as a parent. So as a parent, when Ohio State went down or when C.J. Stroud went down, I'd be sitting there going, oh, God, get 30 more yards. Oh, God, not 50 yards for the national championship, basically, because you got to figure if you beat Georgia, you're going to beat TCU. And what'd they do? They ran it up the middle. They didn't get any more yards, maybe 2. And next thing you know, again, I'm looking at this as a parent going, oh, man. Oh, crap. Oh, come on, God, just give me this one. I remember one time coaching at Indiana against Northwestern, first game. I made a deal with God that I would never swear again if he let us get a stop, and we did. And I swore. I did. But anyway, I would be making a deal. I'd be like, no, God, please, just give me this one. I don't want him to, no. And well, Noah Ruggles, well, he missed it bad. And Stetson Bennett, who, by the way, was terrific to everybody except for his coach. His coach said, hey, look, he's going to have to play better if we're going to win. All Stetson Bennett did, let me go through this a little bit for you. All Stetson Bennett did was not once but twice lead double-digit comebacks in the second half. That's all. He didn't do much. He just decided, well, And it's interesting. His number of passes and completions are the same as C.J. Stroud, 23, 34. He had more yards, 398 yards, 3 touchdowns. You say whatever you want, but Urban Meyer came on our show and told you that Stetson Bennett was the most underrated, undervalued player in college football. And if you watch that game, you would say, I got to believe Coach Meyer is right. Now, I got to believe it. I mean, the pass to the Mitchell kid with 54 seconds to go as a 10-yard pass was great. He never, ever lets his teammates think they're going to lose. And, oh, by the way, his teammates, for the most part, were outplayed by Ohio State. They went in the fourth quarter down 14. Now, I got to tell you, I did not see this anywhere, but the times that Ohio State would win a football game up 14 going into the fourth quarter would be, I don't know, about 100%. It's the first time in a decade they've lost 2 games in a row. I do think that Marvin Harrison Jr. going out in the third quarter and Cade Stover going out, they lost their tight ends. I do think that's a reason. I don't think that's an excuse. I think that's a reason. If you're going to say, what's the reason Ohio State lost a football game, there were a few. They obviously couldn't stop Stetson Bennett. They obviously missed a field goal late. They obviously could have moved the ball forward a little bit more to help the kid. I mean, Stroud was on a roll, but you also got to say, well, you know what? They lost the best player in the country to some people, Marvin Harrison Jr. They lost him late in the third. They lost Cade Stover. He had to go to the hospital earlier in the game. So you can make a deal with that. But you could also say, hey, look, man, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but 2 things happened. The greatest timeout in the history of fake punts coming or fake field goals coming was by Kirby Smart. And then you got to just say, look, Stetson Bennett, I don't know about you, but Stetson Bennett was just whooping up on folks. Nah, he was. He was just whooping up on folks. It's funny. We put out a tweet that says the Colts once again show just how much of an embarrassment they are. And Carolyn Sue says pretty sure Ohio State gets that crown. All right, I do need to go to something because people saying this. We had the other day, yesterday I think it was, on Outkick, there was an article about Ryan Day being fired. Now, I got to tell you, I don't think Ryan Day should be fired. But this is an example of a guy not being above the fan base. Urban Meyer was above the fan base. When Urban Meyer came to Ohio State, he had already won a couple national championships. So they were begging him to come to Ohio State. John Calipari from Memphis going to Kentucky, they were begging him to go to Kentucky. They felt him to be the savior. All right? Ryan Day wasn't that. Ryan Day isn't that. Ryan Day is 45-6, though. Let me tell you what 45-6 does. It makes you millions. It gets you a house in Sarasota, one in the Swiss Alps, and one in Gary, Indiana, if you want, for crying out loud. But Ryan Day lost 2 in a row, and Ryan Day is falling victim to the, quote, big game mentality. What's that? Well, he can't win the big one. He can't beat Michigan. Well, he's lost 2 in a row. All right. Then he lost this one to Georgia. Now, all right, I get it. Ohio State has demands, but be careful what you wish for. Ryan Day needs to be fired. He always wastes the talent of everyone on his roster. Okay. Mark Bader. Fire Ryan Day. Convince me otherwise. Look. No. The guy, what's the guy's name? Joel Klatt. Joel Klatt. He says, what a ridiculous article. And he's right, except it is a ridiculous article unless you are viewing it from the prism of Ohio State fan, or you're viewing it from the prism of Urban Meyer, who came on the show and said, look, it doesn't matter if you go 11-0, you got to beat Michigan. And then you get a reprieve and you got to go ahead and win this one. So looking at it from the prism that I'm looking at it from, be careful what you wish for, 45-6, be happy. Well, that's not the prism Ohio State and Ohio State fans look through. One consolation for Ohio State was Michigan lost, and I got to tell you, Michigan got its brains beat out. Now, obviously, the game came down. The game was fine. The game ended up 51-45, but you're Michigan, man. You're vaunted. You got rid of Don Brown, the longtime defensive coordinator. You got to play some defense against, you know what? It's TCU. What are we doing? Michigan gave up 263 rushing yards. And let me go through this. Let me go through this with you. Kendre Miller was a stud running back for TCU, 1,300 yards. He went out early. So a kid named Amari DiCardo came in, and honest to God, he looked like Derrick Henry. And Michigan had nothing for it. Zero, zip, nada. Nothing. Zero. Michigan, my backside. Michigan had a great first play, and then it was downhill from then. And then I have no idea. I have no idea what they were doing on the goal line with double reverses. They had 3 times first and goal and came away with 3 points. Not 1, not 2, 3 points. Now think about that for just a second. You're Michigan, man. You're strong. You ever see dudes that play at Michigan? They're all big blockheads. They are. They're all big blockheads. And Michigan, to me anyway, they got beat up physically. Hey, you need to run it? They ran it. Max Duggan, are you kidding me? I'd take that guy on a team. I don't know if he's an NFL quarterback. That's what everybody says. He's the first guy in the history of the college football playoff. First guy. 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. You got to give it to the kid. And I'll tell you this, he's first team all sack. He is. That dude, just the way he goes about his business, he wants to make you play really hard for him. All right, I will say this, Michigan got screwed. I thought the Roman Wilson touchdown was a touchdown. Like, I don't know how you call that. But if that's not a touchdown, I don't know what the heck the touchdown is. And the next play, the Mullings kid with a bad snap between him and McCarthy. Next thing you know, it's a fumble. But, I mean, that's a hell of a play right there. The kid makes the catch. He's kind of fumbling. By the time he gets down, he's in the end zone. That's a touchdown in any game ever played anywhere. But they said, no, it's not. I don't agree. I think it's a terrible call. I think that really, really hurt Michigan, that and the play calling. And I got to tell you, the fumble, there's 2 things with fumbles like that after you think there's a touchdown, okay? 1, obviously the points. 2, your entire team deflates. You go from the Roman kid is going backwards. You think he's going to score. He's going to get a touchdown. You think he's in. Next thing you know, you're all fired up, and then it's no good. We're at the 1. All right, you're still juiced up. You're still going. You're still rocking. You're still rolling. No good. What do you mean no good? No, we fumbled. What? It was unbelievable. 41-22 in the third. 2 pick sixes for TCU. And now TCU gets to go to the playoffs. And I got to tell you, they beat the crap out of Michigan. Michigan hadn't given up 27 points all year. Now, I don't know. Maybe the Big Ten's not very good. I have no idea. But I know this. They hadn't given up 27. And if that game had gone on, I tell you what, TCU was still going to score points. So now we got TCU and we got Georgia. We're going to talk to our friend Mike Griffin's coming up and get his take on what's going to happen with Georgia. A couple other things. Big-time kudos to Bryce Young. Bryce Young threw for 5 touchdowns. Alabama rocked and rolled. And big kudos to the entire Tennessee football team. Tennessee whomped Clemson. And that young kid for Clemson, that quarterback, he made one of the dumbest plays that I've seen, man. At the end of the half, what are you doing? But anyway, I think Tennessee just looks stronger, athletic, more together. And what a year. What a year for the Vols, man. The Vols are going to go into next year. I don't know who's back. I don't know who's transferring. I don't know who's staying. Who knows? Nobody does. But the Vols, man, in 2 years, Josh Heupel has turned that bad boy into magic. But I do got to give a shout-out to Alabama. Look, last thing in the world Nick Saban gave a rat's about was standing on that podium after winning a bowl game that did not include the Final Four, and he's standing there, and his team had played really well. They had beaten the crap out of Kansas State. They'd beaten them bad. Next thing you know, they're on the podium. Bryce Young played great. Joe Milton played great. I mean, you got to give them shout-out. You got to say, hey, look, in an era where everybody's quitting, in an era where people are saying, yeah, I want to leave the team, but I want to stay and play for the team, Bryce Young, who I don't know if he's going to be the first pick, second pick, but he's going to be one of the two, says, yeah, I'll play, throw 5 touchdown passes, lead his team, and it looked like they had a great time. So that was absolutely fantastic. That was a ball. That really was. The whole weekend could not have been better. College football playoff was unbelievable. All right, before we go to break, Gary Hahn got suspended. Can we go to the audio on the North Carolina State? Let me know what you think about this. The North Carolina State announcer, Gary Hahn, got suspended indefinitely for this right here. Let's give a play.
It's the Sun Bowl. And amongst all the illegal aliens down in El Paso, it's UCLA 14 and Pittsburgh 6. That's with 11:15 to go in the second quarter. Let's go to the sidelines. Tony Haynes.
Well, NC State, not a lot of depth in the secondary.
Amongst all the illegal aliens. Now, look, I've heard Tim Hardaway talk about sexual assault on the air. I've seen Jalen Rose say that guys were unarmed and murdered, but not. And yet we're worried about this. And as Cahaley said, illegal alien is belonging to a foreign country. Now, it was stupid of Gary Hahn to inject that. You open yourself up to criticism. I mean, let's be honest, particularly being an older white dude. I mean, older white dude, no, you can't. We know you shouldn't. You can't. You won't. You do. You're suspended. But is it really that big a deal? I mean, is it really that big a deal? I mean, I guess. I mean, how's it offensive? Who's it offending? It's true. I mean, they have declared a state of emergency down in El Paso because of illegal folk coming in. We talked to Brian Urlacher about what's going on in the border. So he says something that is factually true. And who knows? Maybe something happened with Gary Hahn and some folks that are here illegally. I don't know. I know it's a stupid thing to say. I get it. I mean, there's no reason to interject it other than you just try to be a smart aleck, which I always support. But, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of people have said a hell of a lot worse. But again, you're a middle-aged white guy. You better be very, very careful. Barbara Walters passed away at 91. Now, I like Barbara Walters' interviews. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, she's the greatest, blah, blah, blah. But she did when she interviewed somebody. She brought a sense of this is a big-time interview. And it doesn't happen now. Like, if somebody was going to say they're going to sit down with somebody, who would it be? And you go, oh, that's a big-time interview. It's Dakich on Don't At Me. I get it. But seriously, if we were going to discuss that, if we were going to go through that, I don't know. Is there anybody bigger? Oprah, I guess. People want to sit down with Oprah, but Oprah seems to be so one-sided here, or so, I don't know. I think she sold herself to wokeism. But Barbara Walters, I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention. She's the one that started The View, and God, I wish she hadn't. But the truth of the matter is, Barbara Walters was terrific. Barbara Walters, when she did an interview, a Barbara Walters special, or her top 10 most interesting people, 93 years old, I said 91, my apologies, she passed away. And here's the deal with getting older. You know, I sit here and I look at my face and I don't like anything about what I see, all right? But you feel like you're still in your 20s. You feel like, oh, man, I remember what it was like to be 30. I got the same brain. But then you look around and people that you idolize, people that you paid attention to, people that you watch are all dying. Yeah, I don't like it. No, I don't like it even a bit. We're going to come back with Mike Griffins. We're also, when we are done at 10 o'clock, we're going to talk about Andrew Tate and his brother still detained in Romania, but he's still tweeting. So Romania jails say, look, we're going to do this and we're going to treat you crappy, but hey, take your phone and do some tweeting. I like it. Mike Griffin, you know Mike. Mike is the man in Georgia covering the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, a lot of people are cranky. A lot of people said, hey, wait a second. You got to praise Stetson Bennett if you're Kirby Smart. Yeah, I feel like Kirby Smart did something really, 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 really smart. What was that? Kirby Smart made his team forget as quickly as he could. Now, they wouldn't forget, but he's trying to make his team forget about beating Ohio State. Let's move on. We got a championship to win, and then you can party like it's 1999. You can do whatever the heck you want. But I'm with Kirby Smart on it. I'm not mad at him. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. All right, when we come back, Mike Griffins is going to join us. You've heard him on this show. He brings the heat. He brings the fire. He calls out what needs to be called out. Go to @MikeGriffith, Griffith, 32. Benetti did his first NFL game. Our friend Jason Benetti, he's going to join coming up at 10:30. 10 o'clock, I'm getting into the Andrew Tate stuff. We'll be right back. And stock up, stock down.
Welcome into the latest edition of the Trey Wallace podcast. I am Trey Wallace, happy to be joined by Saturday Down South national columnist, correspondent, you name it. He does everything. Connor O'Gara, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. It's nice to do a little home and home with you. Had you on the Saturday Down South podcast last week, be able to come on your show this week. I feel like there's like a million things that we can talk about as we get into bowl season. So yeah, man, I guess because I went in like 12 different directions with you. So it's only fitting that you probably do the same with me.
No, man, it happens. And we're getting into the crazy part of bowl season, kind of like, the mid-majors are out of the way. Now we're starting to get some of the bigger games that folks can get excited about towards the future, starting on like Friday. And you get a nice matchup Friday night with Tennessee, Clemson, a couple other matchups scattered, throughout the day, then getting into Saturday. If we're looking outside of Ohio State and Georgia and TCU, Michigan, are there two or three games that stand out to you? They're like, okay, these have little implications towards maybe the 2023 season.
How about South Carolina, Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl? Really interested to see the way that this plays out for Spencer Rattler, somebody who has just had a season that I don't know if there's a recent comp to it where, man, after those first 10 games, everybody who was low on Spencer Rattler was like, see, this is why this was never going to work. What a horrible decision. South Carolina kind of wasted a year with all these great skill players, a lot of Marcus Satterfield hate. And now, just like that, after the two games that Spencer Rattler had, he's got a chance to do something very unique. And I wonder how that impacts his NFL draft status. I wonder if he is deciding based on how he performs in this game and the feedback that he gets, if he's coming back for another year.
Hey, welcome back. The great Mike Griffith joins us. Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Dog Nation. Nobody, ladies and gentlemen, will break it down better with more energy, more excitement, and a better background than the great Mike Griffith. Hey, what did you think? It was a great game. The kick went wide left. Kirby, after the game, says Stetson Bennett needs to play better. I thought he played pretty good. I mean, I love that Kirby did that, though. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, Kirby's not going to BS around. I mean, the lazy national narrative is, the quarterback's always the winner. The truth is Stetson Bennett did not play well in the third quarter, Dan. And Stetson said that. I mean, he was like 1 of 4 for 15 yards in the third quarter. The game was getting away from Georgia. They could not keep up with the Ohio State offense when Marvin Harrison Jr. was on the field. They could not match up with them on their defense. Biggest play of the game was when Bullard hit Harrison Jr. in the end zone and knocked him out of the game. That's when the game changed. C.J. Stroud was only, I believe, 4 of 8 in the fourth quarter for 28 yards passing. Had to do it with his legs. I mean, tremendous performance for Stroud. He was everything he was supposed to be and more. The arm talent was unbelievable. And, you give the Buckeyes credit. It was a very game effort. They played strong. They played hard. But there's a reason why Kirby Smart has become the best coach in the country. And you saw it. You saw the intensity. You saw the resiliency. On a night when Georgia really didn't play that well, they still found a way to beat an incredibly talented Ohio State team that was led by a future NFL franchise quarterback.
You know, one of the things that I've always said this, and I think about it as a dad whose son played Big Ten basketball, and when they did not move the ball forward after Stroud's great run, and it was going to be, you know, basically a 50-yard field goal, I just thought to myself, man, is that asking a lot of a college kid in that environment to make a 50-yard field goal? I thought they were humming a little bit, and maybe Stroud could have got out of the pocket and got some more yards. What were you thinking when they got it to that point?
Well, what I was thinking was that they shouldn't have run the ball on first down. I mean, Ryan Day knows better. You don't waste plays against Kirby Smart's defense. I know you think you have time. Maybe you can sneak this conservative little play out here and find something. It's like you took one swing away from yourself. You had 3 swings: first down, second down, third down, and you basically took one swing away. You're not going to beat Georgia running the ball. We said it before the game. You saw it during the game. And, you know, Ryan Day he got just a little conservative. And listen, this is really nitpicking, because Ryan Day impressed me. I'll be honest, Dan. I'm going to be completely honest. I had a lot of questions about this guy. I wondered if maybe he just, you know, kind of born on third base, took over a good job. Maybe this guy really wasn't going to be a long-term answer for Ohio State, you know, because obviously they've lost the last 2 years against Michigan. I was very impressed with Ryan Day's play calling in this game, his strategy. You can't ask the guy to pitch a perfect game. I don't know how many plays they ran, 75, 80. I didn't look at the count, but he called an incredible game. Ohio State was unbelievably efficient. They were prepared. They neutralized the best player on the field, Jalen Carter. You didn't hear his name called all night. They didn't turn the football over. They had a very aggressive tack. They were very efficient, proficient, just a smidgen conservative there. Late at the end on that first, and that's splitting hairs, because look, you go to Ohio State to kick 50-yard kicks in perfect weather conditions off a turf. We're not talking about a breezy, windy day with bad footing. We're talking about picture-perfect conditions, the greatest stage you could be on, and that's why you go to Ohio State, is to make that kick. Everybody had a tough job, Dan. I'm not going to let the kicker off the hook. I'm not going to persecute him and put the whole game on him, but everybody had a tough job. The safeties, the linebackers, the defensive ends, everybody was getting punched in the mouth. There were bodies falling all over the place. Ohio State lost their best receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. Their tight end got sent to the hospital. Georgia had guys getting knocked out of the game. They were 2 down at their outside linebacker position, where they were already missing their elite edge rusher. It's the only reason they were somewhat beatable was this guy Nolan Smith has been out. If he's out there, nobody's touching Georgia right now, by the way. And they survived Stetson Bennett, you know, having some hiccups there in the third quarter when they ran 11 plays and only got 15 yards on the first 11 plays. I mean, Ohio State's running away with this thing. So everybody had it tough. Nobody had it easy, including the fans, who were just exhausted. Both these crowds, they cheered, they screamed. I mean, the kick's going off at midnight. I mean, you want to talk about an unbelievable, historic ending as the clock strikes midnight. A potential game-winning kick is in the air, and it was unbelievable. It's one of the top 5 games that I've covered in 30 years in the business.
On New Year's Eve. So the clock striking midnight on New Year's Eve. Mike, that's why your response to the kicker is why I prefaced it by saying as a parent. Because as a coach or as a teammate, I'd be blanked off, right? But as a parent is how I preface it. No, you're exactly right. Look, I feel bad for the kid because he's the one out there. But for, you know, every play of that game was such let me put it this way. I didn't feel like, regardless of who was in for Georgia or regardless of who was in for Ohio State, I didn't feel like there was any let up out of either team. I feel like both teams, you could, for one of the few times, say, man, both of these guys, they left it right there. They left everything out there.
Deserved to win.
I agree.
And Todd Monken, Georgia's no-nonsense offensive coordinator, who said last week, he's been a part of these groups that say they're family. You ain't family. If I suck, you're going to fire me, he said. And I'm just going, I love it. Bring the wall down. Tell the truth. And Monken's going, and Kirby Smart brought Mike Bobo back here. He acted like it was my choice, but he was bringing him back here anyway. Listen, no brass tag, you people. So what's your relationship like with Kirby? He's my boss. And the minute I start thinking it's more than that, I'm wrong. And this is where the fans got to get it. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Kirby Smart said Stetson. Well, then you don't know Kirby Smart, folks, because he was ready to replace Stetson after last year. He went after Caleb Williams and tried to get him to Georgia, so that wouldn't have been a last thing. Can you imagine Georgia with Caleb Williams? My God, you'd be talking Joe Burrow numbers right now. As it is, you've got this incredible story, 25-year-old former walk-on, clutch gene. Stetson went down the field on the game-winning drive. I asked him in the press, I said, Stetson, you've done this so many times. Does this get easier? He said, I need to see the film because I felt there was 30 minutes of bad football. And I thought, boy, that's interesting. And then I saw what Kirby Smart said after the game, and it made me realize, oh, yeah, he got lit up by Monken, because that's what happens. And fans are like, well, wait a minute. We love – okay, well, you love Stetson. You can buy his jerseys, buy all the – but in that locker room, there's a standard, folks. And Kirby doesn't care who's a Heisman finalist and who's a 3-star and who's a 5-star and who's a walk-on. You either meet the standard or you don't at every position. And the ends do not justify the means with Georgia football. Kirby doesn't look at it and go, well, you know what? We won. I'm just happy about it. We're moving on to that. Hell no. They are breaking down the film. They are going over every single mistake with a microscope. They're going to talk to every guy about what the corrections need to be before they play TCU, because that's what it takes. Monken is right. It's not warm and fuzzy. It's not who wants to be a Bulldog. It's not where you grew up or who your dad is. It's who's the best guy. And if there's somebody better, you're sitting. And it doesn't matter who you are. And that's what's going to keep Georgia on top. That's what got the Bulldogs here. And that's what's going to keep them there. And Kirby Smart makes no illusions. He's not this warm, fuzzy guy that people maybe want or think he should be.
You know, one of the things people ask me all the time, I think you and I may have talked about this relative to Kirby Smart, but for 16 years I played and I coached and I was in a film room every day with Bob Knight, literally every day, after wins, after losses. And people always ask me, what's the number one thing that Coach Knight, did that made him great? And the number one thing that he did was make you forget big wins, particularly at a place like Indiana basketball, Georgia football. I mean, look, we all know you're going to get praised. We all know that Stetson Bennett, 398 yards, 23 of 34. You're going to get another clutch gene touchdown. But it's the coach's job, and you understand this, Mike, it's the coach's job to see what others don't and have the stones to call that out regardless of the outcome of the game. Because, as you said, do whatever you want after we win a championship, but this ain't over.
And that was the mood. And they were off the field fast. You didn't see Georgia lollygagging around. And again, this is somewhat new to Georgia fans. Now, don't get me wrong. Georgia's had a winning program. They've got the longest active bowl streak in the nation. This is a proud, distinguished university community, first class all the way. You know, the late, great Vince Dooley, I think, represented the school for decades in a way that I don't know anybody that's got a bad vibe or a bad feel about the University of Georgia. And I say that as somebody that covered Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee. I came here with the visiting media many times. And when you were around Georgia, there was just this aura of class, but they lacked this killer instinct. And I'm going to tell you, Kirby Smart's got it. I don't know how many NASCAR people are watching, but he's got that Dale Earnhardt mentality. When Kirby sees the checkered flag, it don't matter what's in between him and that flag. He's taking him out, man. That's just how it is. You better know that you are up against a ruthless competitor and Kirby Smart. And you see these teams take on the personality of their head coach. That's why Georgia was able to come from behind when it looked like they were beat 3 times. Listen, one of the guys that comes on here a lot, coach I got respect for, Urban Meyer. I don't care how things worked out in Jacksonville. This is a proven coach and a proven champion. And Urban Meyer said later that night on the Big Ten Network, there were 3 times he thought that Georgia was beat. And he said Kirby Smart is a championship coach and they have championship players. Let me tell you, that is high praise coming from Urban Meyer. Urban doesn't throw those bouquets out there just for the heck of it. It ain't the conference that his network's covering, okay? It doesn't behoove him to sing Kirby Smart's praises. Urban's calling it like it is. Urban saw in Kirby what Urban had with the Buckeyes and with the Gators. And when you've got that mentality and your team is bought in, and they fight like hell to the last second, regardless of the scoreboard, you give yourself a chance. Dan, Ohio State should have won that game. Ohio State was the better team. but Georgia was the tougher team. Georgia was the more persistent team. Georgia was the more bought-in team, right? That's how Georgia won a game that they really shouldn't have won. If they play the game 10 times, I'm not sure Ohio State doesn't win 7 of them.
You know, one of the things that Urban said on this show, again, people, I don't know the 3 deep depth charts for both teams. I'm not going to lie. But he did say, look, don't tell me that Georgia has this immense talent advantage. Now, Harrison goes out. You mentioned Stover goes out, a couple guys for Georgia. I think you saw that. I think, look, hey, to your point, this wasn't, how do I put it? Like, this wasn't a team that was out-talented and scrapped its way. I mean, you mentioned C.J. Stroud. That dude's going to be, at least in my opinion, based on the other game, he's going to be an NFL franchise guy. So let me ask you this. TCU, hey, look, they ran roughshod, 263 yards running the football. How does this match up? What do you see here early as we get ready for a game a week from tonight?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Only a week from today, Dan, you're right. It's going to happen fast. And to your point, from the talent disparity, remember, Georgia was down to their 3rd or 4th string, and their right tackle didn't play 37 consecutive starts. He was out. Their best receiver, Ladd McConkey, wasn't 100%. I mean, this is a Georgia team that's had their injuries too. So to your point, they weren't in perfect shape. I'm just telling you, when it comes to toughness and resiliency, and I've covered a lot of great teams, this reminds me of some of the Gene Stallings teams that I covered at Alabama in the 90s. Listen, what I think, and I could be way wrong here. Now, remember, I said on this show last week that, or maybe it was the week before, that I thought Ohio State was a nightmare matchup, and it absolutely was.
You did.
They absolutely. Kirby knew what this was going. Kirby knew, and he's still angry that he didn't play even better because that's Kirby. I don't think TCU matches up well. This is a historically large point spread. It's the largest point spread in a championship game since college football has gone to a unified format with the BCS in 1998. Did my research yesterday, looked it up. Dogs are a 14-point favorite. I don't want to sound like the arrogant Homer beat writer here, but I think Georgia's going to roll them, man. I think Georgia survived the scare. They got by the team that matched up. Max Duggan is not Stroud. He's not CJ Stroud. He doesn't have that sort of arm talent. He does not throw those darts. The ball hangs in the air. Georgia DBs will close on those balls. They will get pressure on TCU. TCU will not run for more than 200 yards on Georgia. They will not make a living on the ground against Kirby Smart. Georgia will demolish TCU in the national championship game in a week.
Wow. And you know what TCU fans are saying? Yeah, we've heard that all year.
Are there any of them? Because I don't see them. The hotels are pretty empty. I don't know how many TCU fans are out there. My son covered a game out there. Now you talk about a beautiful stadium and campus. And listen, Sonny Dykes, he deserves, we have a Steve Spurrier Award, first-year coach of the year. He deserves that. Kirby Smart's the national coach of the year. And you're going to see that in a week. Kirby Smart reloaded a program that lost 15 guys to the NFL and 13 guys to the portal. And Georgia is the team that won their conference. Georgia is the team that's 14-0. Georgia is the team that played the future franchise quarterback, not the future high school coach, J.J. McCarthy. Georgia was the team that fought the fight. Okay, TCU lost in their conference championship game, and they got dealt a Jim Harbaugh team that hasn't won a bowl game in what, Dan, 7 years now? Is this 6 bowl losses in a row for Harbaugh? Does he still own college football? Is that narrative still being preached? Are they still going to find a way to give Jim Harbaugh $2 million in bonuses, even though he choked against one of the worst college football playoff teams we've seen since the advent of it in 2014?
Man, you're killing TCU.
Are we right? I mean, well, you tell me. I'm killing them. Look what Kansas State did to them. Did you see did you see that game? Didn't Kansas State lose to Tulane? I mean, I'm just not buying it. And Coach Dykes, and I'm sure he's got a reason for saying it. And again, what he did turning TCU around, that's a great job. But for him to call out the SEC schedule, you don't think Kirby Smart's going to put that on the wall? That this TCU coach says that your schedule wasn't tough? Let me tell you, this wasn't Georgia's toughest SEC schedule ever. It wasn't. But there were some tough road trips, man. There were some tough games. You don't think beating Mike Leach in Starkville, where they'd won 6 games in a row, and Zach Arnett, and this hellish defensive scheme that State plays, you don't think playing in 30-degree weather in Kentucky against a Mike Stoops defense with a 20-mile-an-hour wind against a Kentucky team that had nothing else to play for. This was their Super Bowl. Will Levis's last chance to show he was for. You don't think that was tough? You don't think playing Brian Kelly and LSU in the SEC title game with future NFL receivers, you don't think that was a tough game? So, but Dykes is gonna call out the SEC. Dykes is gonna call out Kirby Smart in the SEC. And who did TCU beat this year? I'm searching here.
Baylor.
Baylor. The uniforms are great. The Horned Frogs, purple, fun, Cinderella story. But they're getting ready to run into a machine, Dan. I'm telling you, it's going to be a pissed off Georgia team. Kirby Smart was not happy with the way that game went. Saturday, he's happy he won, but he's going to go right down the list. And those guys are going to reload, and they're this close now. They got this purple team. Most of them don't even know where it's at, and most people watching don't either, so don't laugh. They got this purple team, and they're this close to being only the fourth team since 1978 to win back-to-back national titles? You think Georgia's going to let this one slip out of their grasps? No way.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I did a couple basketball games down there, and I looked around, and I told my partner, I said, everybody here looks like a golf pro. I'm looking in the stands. I go, oh, there's the guy. He's got the golf, like the shirt I'm wearing, Callaway on it or whatever. I go, hey, but I think I get what you're saying, and it would behoove Sonny Dykes and everybody, actually on both teams, to kind of just, throw bouquets at the other team. Hey, they're great. They're in a championship game. What the hell? I mean, what more do you want? I think you're downplaying a little bit. I think Duggan is terrific. I think and I think this is one of those teams. I do not think they beat Georgia, but I think this is one of those teams that as you go through a season, belief and I also belief is big, but I'm telling you, this is a pretty talented team, Mike. This is a pretty fast team.
Is it?
I think it is, Mike.
Did we all miss it? Should they have been in the top 25 somewhere?
Not everybody missed it, but they
got some first round picks I've never heard of, Dan. Let me see.
Come
Here's
on.
the stat book.
Come on. You watched that Michigan game, and you had to say this is a pretty fast, physical team. Now, are they physical with Georgia?
I said it was a typical, slow, overrated Michigan team is what I said, because that's what happens every year. We get sold the farm on Jim Harbaugh.
Coming out? Is that the Sparty in you coming out?
How many bowl games has Harbaugh lost in a row? 6?
No, I'm not talking. I'm talking about the typical slow comment. Come on, they ran past Ohio State.
You watched the same game I did against TCU.
I did.
You saw the same Orange Bowl that I did against Georgia.
I did.
If Kirby wanted to put 50 on Michigan last year in the Orange Bowl, he could have. They share the same birthday. Maybe he felt sorry for him. Maybe because Tom Crean was still the Georgia basketball coach, and that's Harbaugh's brother-in-law. Kirby didn't want to, stir up any family vibe. The truth is, Georgia is far and away better than Michigan. I don't know how I don't know the voodoo spell that they've got. Let me say this about CJ Stroud, though, Dan. I want to make sure I get this in there, because I've listened to a lot of Georgia fans, and rarely do I see a fan base compassionate towards the other team's quarterback.
Yeah.
When I look at CJ Stroud, and I interviewed the guy, and listen, he was, you could just see the focus. I mean, these were two different teams, and that's even more impressive that Georgia was able to win, because, Ohio State had blood in their eyes. That was a focused, well-prepared team. I think Coach Day said they ran 15 plays worth of reps. I believe it. Ohio State was all in. They wanted to get that brand image back so bad. I feel bad for CJ Stroud. And here's why. And I know he's going to be making, that's the end. Well, he's going to be a millionaire soon. I get it. But it's not about the money for guys like this. It is, but it isn't. His trophy case, there's no wins over Michigan. There's no Big Ten title. He's got a Rose Bowl win, but one of his own players said they didn't feel like they were playing for much last year. He leaves with an empty legacy relative to other Ohio State quarterbacks. And that's too bad, because he's special. And when you read his story and you see what this kid's been through, you cannot help but root for a guy like CJ Stroud. And you talk to him after the game, and he credits Christ, and he says that this is God's plan, and he left it all out there. I respect that. I wish there was more of that mentality. Instead of pointing any fingers, the guy left it on the field, and whether you want to credit religion or credit chance or karma, whatever. The fact that he's willing to leave it on the field, give credit to the other team, and just move on, not make excuses, but you just say, you know what, a guy like that deserves better. He deserves more. And as for TCU, look, again, it's a Cinderella story. It's great. get a good picture of it, because teams like this aren't going to make it once we go to a 12-team playoff. All right. They shouldn't be. In most years, a TCU team that loses in the Big 12 championship game to Kansas State isn't getting in the playoff. Now, we can talk forever about Jim Harbaugh and whether or not he choked or not. This was supposed to be the Michigan team that was so different. The fact that they got run over by TCU, to me, it was a gut check, and Michigan didn't show up. I don't know what it says about the program, the players.
Wait a second. It wasn't 40-7.
It was 51.
45.
Michigan gave up 51 points.
I know.
51 points.
And they hadn't given up 27 all year. They had not given up 27, Mike.
TC who, right? Not TCU, TC who.
You know what was one of the great things about the rant you just went on, and it wasn't really a rant, it was just an explanation, was you did an unbelievable job of complimenting C.J. Stroud while downplaying C.J. Stroud. It was magical what you just did.
I don't know how I downplayed him.
Well,
I thought
his trophy case is empty. There's no wins over there.
That's the sad part.
I know.
It's unfortunate. Listen, people know this. They watch you, because you're not going to throw the lazy BS narrative out there. There's certain things I knew that, but I can't believe we're going to say it.
Right.
This is reality. This is, when I
That's
do
why
my
I love having you on, Mike. That's why I love having you on.
Whatever. Dog Nation.
Yeah.
Listen, and people go, oh man, all I do is tell the truth, and I don't worry about consequence, because the truth will set you free. Now you need to show respect, and you need to have some level of dignity. But at the same time, listen, there's so much crap out there on social media and television. There is still a segment of the audience, Dan, that want it dealt straight. They still want to try to hit the 95-mile-an-hour fastball. When they go to the batting cages, they don't want to hit the slow pitch machine. Some people still want to pick up the bat and want to hit fastballs. They still, when they get the weather report, they really want to hear if it's going to rain that day or if it's foggy. They don't expect 75 and sunny every day, because this is the real world. And that's the great thing about sports. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. They don't show the agony of defeat on highlights anymore. All they show is the thrill of victory. We never get to see the guys that are bottoming out, right? And if we do, it's some docudrama about what they wore or who they're dating off court. And oh, by the way, I couldn't help but resist and appreciate the fact that LeBron James, arguably the greatest basketball player of the most current era, means after Michael Jordan era. Okay.
Yes.
LeBron James puts it on his sleeve. He's an Ohio State guy. He stuck around and went to the game. And he even let a little bit out on Twitter, on his Twitter account. If you don't follow LeBron James, you're one of the 100 million that don't, because the other 10 million or 100 million do. Even was upset at the end of I said, you know what? I like this. I like that there's a pro guy following the game like this, showing up in the suites, following his team. Some of the other LeBron James stuff, not so high on, but the LeBron James fan and the guy that loves the Buckeyes, I say, good for you, LeBron. I'm glad you showed up at the game and supported your program. I wish more athletes and celebrities would do that.
See, why do I feel like that's a shot?
What's a shot?
I don't know.
I'm just saying. I was glad he was there.
I don't know why I feel like, hey, I was glad you were there to see your team have an incredibly disappointing loss.
But Dan, you said it yourself. Listen, if you're a real Ohio State fan, you saw something out of your guys that you hadn't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Those Buckeyes did not go out there like some arrogant group of 5 stars that thought they should win. Those guys fought their asses off. And sorry for using that word, but there's no other word. Those guys fought. They fought tooth. Because I'm going to tell you, those Kirby Smart teams, man, this is one bloody, brutal group of football players. And you saw it when Bullard knocked Harrison out. It wasn't a dirty play. It was a football play. The kid tried to turn his shoulder. Call could have gone either way. But that was one heck of a lick in the end zone. And those licks were going on all night. I saw Chris Smith, the guy they really ought to build a statue of at Georgia, Soldier Chris, he calls himself. He came up and hit a guy so hard, the guy's helmet went off in the first quarter. Message sent. I don't know if you remember that play, Dan. But, that was just a clean hit. I said, oh, man. And then I started thinking, man, I hope nobody gets killed tonight. I'm just like, this is unbelievable. He comes up, he hits that guy in the helmet, goes, I said, holy, this is what's coming. Get ready. These teams 2 freight trains. If you're an Ohio State fan, you better be proud of your team. You better be proud of Ryan Day. You better see what he put into this. You better see the mentality that comes out of this. I think great things are ahead for Ohio State. I think Michigan has had their moments. They had 2 shots at the playoffs. Thanks for playing. Ohio State back on top of the Big Ten next year, and get ready for more Georgia. Dan, Georgia's going to get even better next year. Okay, after they beat TCU, if you got to taste the Kirby Smart. Everybody else, Pat Stetson bent on the back, throwing trophies his way. Kirby's like, no, he's got to play better than that. He's got to play within the offense. And Stetson's like, I played 30 minutes of bad football.
Yeah, that's what I like. I got to run, man. That was awesome. Hey, next Monday, I got to have you on Tuesday or Wednesday. I got to, because we got to talk like this. We got to see you. Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Let's do it.
All right, brother. Thanks. Thanks, Mike. That's Mike Griffith, 32, at Mike Griffith, 32. All right, we come back. Andrew Tate still in jail with his brother, but he's tweeting. I got some stock up, stock down, including, well, you'll see. And Benetti joins us. What a monster second hour. We'll be right back.
Start off by saying this. I'm not necessarily a fan of Andrew Tate. He's bombastic and a certified jerk, but I get that's his shtick and it seems to be working for him, so whatever. And now that he's no longer banned on Twitter, he's using his longer leash to troll the perpetually triggered. And yesterday he picked Swedish teen climate activist Greta Thunberg. The two exchanged Twitter barbs after Tate tweeted this, and Greta responded with what amounts to a dick joke. And I'm not clutching my pearls over it, although it doesn't really make sense as an insult given Greta is saying that is her email address. But either way, you see and hear a lot worse on any given award show. And also, drag queens are performing for toddlers these days, so here we are. But then a very predictable thing happened. The liberal Twitter warriors got all in a tizzy and "she's 19" started trending because apparently the 19-year-old legal adult is off limits for any criticism because she's 19, but yet she tweeted a small penis joke. And P.S. for the last 4 years, we've essentially written U.S. climate change policy to appease her and her worldview. But again, we can't criticize her because she's 19. I'm sorry, what? That's not how it works. You want to swim with the big fish, then you can't complain when you end up in the shark tank. You don't get to pick and choose special or equal treatment. What do you want? And this isn't just the deal with Greta. This is a symptom of the way we've allowed society to become. It's the cowards running the show. The perpetually offended get to do and say whatever they want. They get to cancel others for no reason beyond words offending them, and then voila, their will is done. 1% of the population is controlling the population, and I'm sick of it. How did this happen? Well, conservatives, we aren't blameless in this because we're so afraid of being called a name, whether it's fitting or not, which it's usually not, that we cave, we bend over, we bow to the mob. We have greater buying power than these green hairs, but yet major companies and corporations cave to the green hairs. We did this. And furthermore, the reason people like Andrew Tate have a following at all is because they say the things many people are thinking but are too afraid to say, but then they add their shock jock spin on it and take it way too far. Yet we still eat it up because we're so desperate for realness, we'll take it, even if it's feigned realness for money and fame, and even if it's coming from a misogynistic turd like Andrew Tate. So let it be our collective New Year's resolution to square our jaws and our shoulders and stop letting not only the meek but also the loudmouth jackasses control the world. There are normal people left, so maybe we should act like it. And P.S. to Greta, you're not funny, you never will be funny, so you should stick to hugging trees and virtue signaling as it's more your thing.
Hey, welcome back. A lot of people are saying Cajun Vaquero says all bets are off. Georgia should have boat raced the Buckeyes. I'm not saying they're demolishing TCU. Yeah, I don't know. I like what Mike did, though. If you're going to come on this show, you bring it strong. I mean, what the heck? I mean, what are we doing? We are, ladies and gentlemen, a couple of you have asked, where am I? I'm at 6th and Peabody, and I got to tell you, this place is a happy place. You walk outside, and there's booze, and there's fun everywhere. TVs, and I don't know. It's just a happy place. Maybe it shouldn't be, but it is to me. This place is fantastic. All right, let's get in. Remember last week, the pizza seen around the world, Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan got arrested. Andrew Tate is the big mouth influencer / UCF fighter, misogynist, you name it. Apparently he is. I don't know whether he's a sex trafficker or not. I don't necessarily believe the news, particularly when they're after somebody. But he and his brother Tristan, well, they're in jail and they're still tweeting. This is after. You see the time on that, 4:30 in the morning. The Matrix sent their agents. He called that, actually. It appears the insanity of the ruling elite is exposed worldwide now. They have one command: do not speak out, behave as sheep. This is all from the can. This is all from jail, and you can see with 17.5 million views and all the retweets, likes, all that kind of stuff, Andrew Tate and his brother are, well, they're going to come out of this one way or the other. God is on our side, so they're going to come out of this one way or the other. You know, they're going to come out of this either going to jail, and if they did sex traffic, I'd throw their backside in jail. Are you kidding me? I mean, I would do it today, tomorrow, the next day. I mean, look, to me, I've said this forever. Like, you know, we give certain people passes. Isn't being a pimp, isn't that sex trafficking? And next thing you know, I turn on my Corona commercials and I got Snoop Dogg telling me, or whatever Snoop Dogg's telling me. I'm like, wait a second. If you're a sex trafficker, aren't you a sex trafficker? And if you're a sex trafficker, go to jail. I mean, pimping is sex trafficking. Doing whatever this guy did has to be sex trafficking. If that's who he is, and go to jail. If he did that R. Kelly stuff, throw him in jail as quickly as you can. I mean, he is in jail, but I think you should maybe, when you're in jail, take away a guy's phone. I don't know. Look, if you're in jail and you're sitting around, seems like to me sitting around with a phone is pretty good business. How do you get service in the can? Isn't it all brick walls? I don't know. You guys remember this infamous play from early in the year? Jermaine Burton, wide receiver for Alabama, getting off the field. And there he is, and he's going to take a swing and you know, just kind of knock women for whatever the reason. I don't understand it. But this guy feels the need to, you know, just start smacking people right there. Now, why would you do that? Why would you do that? And then, of course, Nick Saban said that Jermaine Burton was scared, and he hit the defenseless woman that you saw right there in self-defense. Now, look, I am a big fan of Nick Saban, but I'm not a big fan of that. I think that's just absolute crap, and it's amazing to me how that was able to stand and nobody was able to lose their mind on Nick Saban. If that dude was scared, then I'm scared right now, and I'm not very scared. We're just having a nice time in here. All right, Jermaine Burton said this: the whole situation, it was a mistake. I can't hold that against myself forever, really. But a mistake is a mistake. You move past it. I'm not going to let a situation frame me as a person or shape me as a person, because I know who I am and my team knows who I am. I'm glad that he made a statement. It would be nice to say I apologize to everybody involved. Now, I don't know whether or not him apologizing is an admission of guilt, and maybe there are proceedings going on that he doesn't want. But he also said this: it can be hostile in a lot of situations, talking about court storming. The SEC can do whatever they can, but it's not safe for a lot of people. You know, all you got to do is say, I'm sorry. I'm a grown man. I hit a woman, and I cannot believe I did that, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever done, and I will never do it again. But just to say it was a mistake is silly to me. I mean, first, he wasn't scared. And why wouldn't you just apologize? Other than, I'll give him maybe, just maybe, there is, I don't know, maybe, just maybe, there is a lawsuit. But it is amazing to me, it is fascinating to me that, well, I got to move beyond it. I'm moving beyond. Well, all right. Well, good for you. Great. I just murdered 3 people, but I'm moving beyond it. There's always 3 things with athletes. I'm a man. They always say the same thing. I'm a man. Only God can judge me, and I'm moving forward. That's in the past. It's always the same thing. In fact, in Indianapolis, when athletes, and there hasn't been very many of them get in trouble here of late, but whenever they do, and they say that, well, I'm a man. Only God can judge me, and I'm moving past it. It's in the past. Yeah? All right. I wonder if it's in the past for that young lady. It would not be in the past for me were I her father. It would. Look, I'm not telling you that I'm a Marvel comic superhero, but I've always said this, and I've always taught players, what are you doing? Like, what do you do after you strike a woman? What do you do? What's your move? What do you do? I don't know. I've never known. I'll never understand it. But what do you do? I'm sorry? Oh, okay. Well, gosh, if you're sorry. Yeah, I've never, and I always taught my players, put your hands in your pockets and go lock yourself in a room if your girlfriend, whoever, is mad at you. Don't, particularly if you've been drinking. If you've been drinking, get the heck out of the way. All right. Let's go with some stock up and stock down. We have not talked about much college basketball. We have not. But I got to tell you, the other day, I'm sitting in a hotel room. It was raining like crazy in Florida. My wife and I were there, and we had worked out. We had done out, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just kind of, and I caught this game, Xavier, UConn. UConn, the number 2 team in the country. Danny Hurley's team is really well coached. Sean Miller's team at Xavier is really well coached, and I couldn't take my eyes off watching the game. I could not do it. It was one of those deals where I'm like, wow. These 2 teams are playing at Xavier in the Cintas Center, and, man, are they going at each other. They're going at each other hard, and for one of the few times in the history of college basketball, the referees decided to stay the living hell out of the way. It was fascinating to me. Guys were banging in it. Guys were fighting over rebounds. Guys were doing things, and it was like, wow, this is pretty good. No, this is really good. I didn't see it coming. I didn't. So kudos, stock up. Stock up, big time stock up. I like I said, I did not see it coming. I did not see that I was going to sit there and watch Xavier and UConn, and then the inevitable happened. I saw it coming. I told Lee, watch, he's going to get a technical, and Danny Hurley lost his mind. Now, Danny Hurley of the Hurleys loses his mind a lot. Everybody that is involved in the Hurleys are insane, and I love them. I do. I like the dad. I like all of them. But Danny gets himself a technical in a 2-point game under 2 minutes. It was an idiotic call by the referee to give Danny Hurley a technical, but he did it, and it did not help. Let's put it that way. But it was a heck of a football game. Did you know the Raiders, we didn't have this on Stock Up. I saw this, and the Raiders are the first team in history to lose 5 games in a season when they lost by more than 10 points in the second half. Wow. Stock up. Grayson McCall. Do you know who Grayson McCall is? Grayson McCall is a guy that is the 3-time, ladies and gentlemen, 3-time player of the year in the Sun Belt. Grayson McCall is someone that I talked about the other day. I talked about him leaving Coastal Carolina. I talked about him leaving but playing in the bowl game, which is something I don't think I would do. Well, on December 12th, Grayson McCall put his name in the transfer portal. Now, you got to understand, Grayson McCall has thrown for 8,000 yards, 78 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Now, think about that for just a second. All right? So there's a new coach that comes in. His name is Tim Beck, and Tim Beck was the offensive coordinator at North Carolina State. Well, Grayson McCall the other day took his name out of the transfer portal, and I liked it, and here's why. I think we talked about this on Thursday or Friday. Grayson McCall made a big statement about, hey, I left, or I'm leaving, but playing in the bowl game to finish what I started. My word means something, and I'm sitting there going, now, hold on. Hold on here. Finishing what you started means finishing your career at Coastal Carolina. But you know what? He's gonna, and I praise the kid for it. Look, had to be hard. I'm guessing that guy, Grayson McCall, with his numbers, would have been somewhere in the Big Ten if the Big Ten won. Hell, I'd have loved to have seen him at Indiana. Indiana, we need a quarterback like I need hair. But, ladies and gentlemen, he's not. He's staying, and I like it. I do. C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, stock way up. I mean, let's not even mess around here. C.J. Stroud played a wonderful game. C.J. Stroud put Ohio State on his back, and here's what I liked about it. It's the biggest stage, right? It's the biggest stage, but C.J. Stroud was coming off his worst performance. C.J. Stroud and Ryan Day had to sit and listen to how awful, how overrated they both are for about 3 weeks after the Michigan game, maybe 4. Because that's how big the Michigan game is. I was told that both were struggling a bit with all the criticism, all the hate. They addressed it, C.J. Stroud did, in a press conference before the game. But I got to tell you, C.J. Stroud, I thought was magnificent. Look, I understand to the victor goes the spoils. I understand Ohio State lost. I understand, hey, look, at the end of the day, you got beat, so we're not going to praise you like we should, but I'll praise C.J. Stroud. I thought 23 of 34, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, made brilliant plays under duress against a really good defense. What can I tell you? And then the run he made to get down the field was awesome. And then Bryce Young, look, Bryce Young didn't have to play in that game. Speaks to Bryce Young's character, I think. Now, that doesn't mean I'm criticizing somebody's character that doesn't play. I just think it speaks to Bryce Young's character and the culture at Alabama. That a guy like Bryce Young, who may be the first pick, maybe the second, probably no less than that, decides that he wants to play in this game. I think that's freaking awesome. So not only does he play, not only does Alabama play, but they get going, and I mean, they look great. And I'm sure there were people, as they were putting up 45 against Kansas State, I'm sure there were people that were saying, hey, look, Alabama should have been in the national championship game. And you can say those things, and that's fine. That's no problem. I got no problem with people saying that. That's part of the beauty of sports. Part of the beauty of sports is saying who shoulda, who woulda, who coulda, and who is. He's a Hall of Famer. No, he's not. They should have been in the championship game. Over who? That's the question. If I was going to say to you, okay, Alabama should have been in the national championship game. Over who? I mean, I watched those 4 teams. Those are 4 pretty good teams. Those are 4 teams that, in my opinion, gave you a great show. In fact, I would argue it's the best show we've ever had in the college football playoffs. I would also argue that college football needed it. You know, a lot of talk, transfer portal, guys being paid, Jimbo Fisher, that kind of thing. Well, let me tell you something. For those of us that literally, and I'm being literal here, sat and watched every single play of both games, man, that was some fun stuff. I didn't feel like leaving. We were at a bar restaurant in Longboat. Friends of ours had and we're sitting there and we're cheering so loud for Michigan just because we had, the whole bar was. And they finally asked, they said, look, people are having a formal dinner over here at the restaurant over here. They asked all the people, all the Michigan fans that were in there to quiet down. But, you get caught up. I didn't go there to cheer. I went there to watch game, eat a little bit, have a couple drinks, and hang out with a friend. But all of a sudden, the crowd at the bar was just going nuts and banging on tables. It was great. That's why sports is awesome. Anyway, all right, stock down. Hey, look, I don't know. You guys going to have to tell me. I've had enough of LeBron James. LeBron James, I don't care about his politics. I really don't care about anything. But by LeBron James's logic, let's go to Bobby Barack, who is America's conscience. He is the voice. But LeBron James' logic. Jerry Jones stood behind white school kids 65 years ago. He's racist and deserves media scrutiny. A quarterback sexually preys on almost 30 women. All good. He's getting his rhythm back. You see James's tweet down there. Yes, sir, D. Watson, another one. That boy getting his rhythm back, Browns. It is like even the NFL, I think, basically took Deshaun Watson off of a lot of their stuff. I mean, you got 30 women. This isn't like, I don't even know what to compare it to. There's nothing to compare it to. So, you know what? We were used to LeBron doing LeBron things. And one of the things that I think we make a mistake on with LeBron is actually giving a rat's backside. I mean, seriously, actually caring. I mean, you know what I mean? actually caring. Jennifer, thank you. Jennifer Gritty. DD is looking tanned and happy. Yeah, baby. I don't have Wi-Fi in here on this one, or I would go to the YouTube chat. Maybe I should ask. Probably could get Wi-Fi. But I sit my fat you-know-what down, and next thing you know, it's and all right, I've had enough of one guy, Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg is starting to give me gas. Pete Buttigieg, I got two words for him. My backside. I would say another word, but I want to monetize this. They always get mad at me when I say things that don't help monetize the show. We want to monetize the show. We want more money. So let's go. Be a sponsor. Do whatever. But Pete Buttigieg was warned. Very early, Pete Buttigieg was warned. He was warned about, well, let's be honest, Pete Buttigieg, staffing are big-time issues. Big issues, Pete. By the way, Pete Buttigieg is the head of the Department of Transportation. Now, you got to understand something. Pete Buttigieg couldn't run South Bend. But Pete Buttigieg is a rising star. Why is he a rising star? I would argue he's a rising star because he's a gay male that was in the military. And that fits the liberal demographic. There's nothing Pete Buttigieg has done that makes you go, wow, this is a rising star. But man, oh man, does he fit the narrative. I had a family member say, well, you know what? You do that show, but I want Buttigieg to be president. I said, why? She said, because he's really smart. I said, what's he done that's really smart? I don't know. Ro Kananen in Bernie Sanders put out a tweet saying nearly 6 months ago, Bernie Sanders and I called for Buttigieg to implement fines and penalties on airlines for canceling flights. Why were these recommendations not followed? This mess with Southwest could have been avoided. We needed bold action. Now, I got to tell you, you tell me, this dude was the mayor of South Bend. Big deal. I mean, that's great being the mayor of South Bend. People think this was a stepping stone for Buttigieg. You know, Buttigieg was vacationing in Portugal when the rail contract negotiations, and it was headed to a strike. Buttigieg is a guy that needed 6 months or 6 weeks or whatever it was off because they had a kid. I was at work the next day. Buttigieg is just another guy that is on third base for reasons that we cannot tell, other than the fact that he's a slick politician. But Buttigieg, as the head of the transportation, was told that there was a supply chain issue. There was all kinds of issues here with Southwest Airlines, including, ladies and gentlemen, staffing and equipment. But Buttigieg has done nothing. Nothing. I mean, nothing. Ro Kananen is a Democrat. He's a co-chair. He accused Buttigieg of ignoring warnings. Buttigieg is a 40-year-old former mayor of a city of 100,000 people, but now somehow, someway, you explain to me, other than politics and profiling, how Buttigieg is a man at 40 years old that is equipped to handle the Department of Transportation and its 60,000 employees. How about that? Now, Buttigieg is one of those crazy folks that is so insane about, carbon neutrality, blah, 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 blah. So I'm sure they'll spin it and say, well, by canceling all this flight, we really saved on carbon emissions. I'd vote these people out on general principle, but I would vote Buttigieg out just because he doesn't deserve to be in. There's nothing he's done other than check woke boxes. Young, very liberal, gay, married to a man, adopted a baby, make him transportation secretary, screw all the people around. Screw all the people around that are, I don't know, because of his ineptness and his laziness, that are stranded at different places at a time when, people just kind of want to get home and see their peeps. That's why Lee and I drive. I don't trust Pete Buttigieg. That's not true. That would be really stupid. Like, I don't trust the Department of Transportation secretary, so I'm driving. That's not true. I lied right there. That was a lie. Seriously. Jennifer, Jason Benetti with DD. This is a great start to the new year. Somebody asked me my over-under on diets. All right, here's what I'm doing. A special announcement. Jennifer, you can join. Everybody can join. All right, here's the deal. Over-under is about 23.5 on diets this year, but I'm going 60 days to greatness. 60 days. I want to look like Chuck. Chuck's sitting right there. He's in great shape. He's one of America's great pickleball players. He's smart. And I'm sitting here with a face the size of this TV screen. But it started yesterday, and I'll tell you what happened. Lee and I got to the Hutton Hotel, a nice place. Although I got to tell you, I don't understand. Every place I go smells like weed. Like there was a concert, I'm going to walk in and go, there's either a skunk here or there's weed going on. I don't know what the hell's going on here. But anyway, I had been great on the way up because it's 60 days to greatness, Jennifer, and it started yesterday. So on the drive up, we didn't stop at Crystal. We didn't stop at White Castle. We did not. We got cheeses, we got some meats, and then we ate some pickles. And then when we got here, I was hungry as hell. And right across the street, I can't remember what it's called, but it's this hot dog and hamburger place that looks unbelievable. And at about 9:30 when we got here, the line around it was out. And we're like, man, that's our place. But I did not go. 60 days to greatness. That's it. If you ask me what it means, I don't know. It's my substitute for January, although I'm in on January. If we want to do January, you know I'm in on January. But anyway, appreciate you. Appreciate everybody. The over-under is 23 diets. There's 365 days in a year. Generally, I diet 20 to 30 different diets a year. But 60 days to greatness. This will end on No, it won't. It'll end on March 1st. And hopefully we're great. All right. Benetti is going to join us. Jason Benetti called his first game in the NFL yesterday. Now, this isn't like, this poor young man got to call a game. No. This is not that. This is the best announcer, along with Mike Tirico, in professional and college sports, who went to Fox for the opportunity to call games in the NFL, and the folks with Fox were smart enough to say, yep, let's go. And he's a good friend. And he's such a good friend that Lee and I are driving this weekend to Chicago to hang out with Benetti, just to have some wine and some sandwiches and talk about greatness. So anyway, yeah, there you go. And he called a field goal for the win. Yeah, he did. So the first game he calls, which is the Cardinals and the Falcons, ends on a walk-off. Yeah, he joins us next. Stay right here.
Yeah, I think because things, transitioned from that regime side to that fundamentalist side. So we also had to change some of our tactics and our procedures and everything else and how we did things to cope with these guys, because they were coming up with some ingenious ways of doing things along the line as well, with some of the IEDs, some of the, the booby trapping the houses, things like that, using the cell phones to call to detonate everything. So it became, I think, as much as you say, more violent in that way, because with the regime guys too, we knew that there was the end state was trying to get Saddam, so that we needed intel as well. We needed to gather that intelligence. There was only so much that was there from previous, just historical data. Then we had to actually make it real intel and workable intel. But with the fundamentalists, if you gave them a chance to vote, and we'd say vote based off, okay, does this guy want to is he going to go along with the capture, or is he wanting to fight? And then let's see who wins. They would rather fight than do anything. There was, so many times guys would detonate suicide vests, because it's like, well, they're not going to take me, clack themselves off, thinking they're killing, other folks around them. But, they just, I don't know, they just were different folks. And it was like we had to get more violent in a way, because again, we were going after intel and doing things, and our procedures and everything on the battlefield just had to kind of adjust, just like they were doing.
That's crazy. I truly cannot imagine. And I was in college. I started college in 2010. So I was in high school when things were getting kind of real bad in the 06, 07 era. And I remember people would always talk about do we really need to be fighting these guys? Are they really that bad? And I'm like, this Zarqawi guy is literally chopping people's heads off, right? And don't think it stops there. Like, if this guy could, he'd chop all of our heads off too. Fortunately, they dropped a couple bombs on him, I believe, if I recall correctly. So now I want to get into some comparing and contrasting.
We call him the Great Benetti because it just sounds magical. Sounds like what he is. Just magical. You see him, you know him, you love him. Fresh off your first NFL TV game. I want to make this clear. You did it for radio, and you had a walk-off, big boy.
Yeah, Dan, I'm used to kickers sprinting onto the field like their hair's on fire and their feet are too. So I didn't really know what to do with myself. And that kick in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium went a little bit better than the Ohio State kick did the night before. Same stadium, different result. But yeah, it was really fun. Brady Quinn was awesome to work with. We had a heck of a crew. Megan O'Leary, who you may know from her UFC coverage, was our sideline reporter, and it was good stuff, good fun. Saw your old buddy David Blau, who used to be the Purdue quarterback, play quarterback for the Cardinals, and so yeah, a lot of fun.
It was a weird game. Like you mentioned, David Blau is playing, and he ripped me a good one, and I loved it. I thought he was just absolutely fantastic. Is there a difference? You called on radio and TV. You don't have to talk as much. What's the difference?
TV, you don't have to talk as much when you're working with Dan Dakich.
Right.
Is the joke that's sitting right there. But I would never say something like that. I've been watching 30 Rock, so I think I've gotten funnier recently.
Yes.
Look, it's on TV. First of all, week 17, when teams are out of it, it's like guys that I had seen in college. So there was some ease there with Desmond Ridder, who I'd done a bunch of his games at Cincinnati, and David Blau I got to know at Purdue. I was the one who told him actually to just take a shot at you. No, I'm kidding.
Should have.
But they're both good. They're both good dudes. I've known them for a while, and yeah, I mean, on TV, you just don't talk as much, right? And there are game breaks, like they're jumping in with NFC scores for teams that are going to make the playoffs. And so, yeah, it was really good fun. And I kind of just, I'm ready to do it again.
For people that don't know, Jason is the White Sox everyday television announcer with Steve Stone, been voted the best broadcast of all the local MLB broadcasts, and I would argue national as well. College basketball's best announcer. I've said he and Mike Tirico, in my opinion, are two best announcers. So this isn't like, well, they gave the kid a nice little chance here. Right? This isn't like, hey, Sparky, it's the end of the year. We're going to give you take a swing. You know?
Well, here's my thing about that. If we're being honest, first of all, the thing I miss about not doing games with you is walking out of an arena and you saying, hey, good game, kid. Good game, kid.
Good game, kid.
Just calling me kid ironically. If we're being honest, has that happened in my career? Yeah. Like there have been trucks that I've walked into and people have been like, "Oh, he's actually good." It's not like a Make-A-Wish Foundation situation here. Like that has happened. If we're being honest, like that has happened, and that can mess with your mind a little bit, right? But that's not what this is. Fox has made an investment in me, and I appreciate the heck out of that. And like Brad Zager has been awesome, and Jacob Ullman has been awesome. And so like I wouldn't imagine, I'm not the one assigning the games, but I wouldn't imagine this is like, here's one, and now you're done because like you said it was 3rd and 2 instead of 3rd and 3 once yesterday or something like that, right? So it was great fun. And the overarching feeling I have is Fox has just been awesome to me. So I appreciate the heck out of that.
When you walk into an NFL stadium to broadcast a game, you've walked into big arenas, you've walked into big places. Is there a difference?
Dan, there was in the back of the booth. First of all, there was a bathroom in the booth. Right, which only happens rarely in college football. There is the Keith Jackson broadcast booth toilet at Nebraska because like he wanted one to be there so much they put one in back when Keith was alive and doing college football and being the legend that he is and was. But there was short rib in the back of the booth. Like at halftime, I was like, anybody got a granola bar? And they were like, there's red velvet cupcakes and short rib and 3 cheese mac and cheese, not with just 3 of the easy cheeses to do too, right? Like there were a couple difficult cheeses to find.
What's a difficult cheese?
You know, like you don't really in mac and cheese typically get like a Pecorino Romano, right? Like you got to travel a little bit for that. You got to go near the boot down in Italy to go get you one of those. You know, a couple of sheep may have been put into work for that mac and cheese. You know, it just didn't come in like a singles wrapper situation.
Yeah, I forgot. You're well traveled. I was just going to go with a Gouda as a fancy cheese, but you went whatever you went because, well, for people that don't know, on the rare off day that Benetti has, he'll jettison over to Switzerland and take in a museum and a play, and then jettison back. Emissions be damned in his world.
I will not comment on that. It is true. I did go to Stockholm for 4 days once, which is like, where are you going? Sweden for a weekend, right? But have you ever seen the Monty Python cheese shop sketch?
Yes.
So that's what I thought of when you started listing cheeses. It's like, hey, you got any Gouda? No, we're fresh out of Gouda.
I got a nice Gouda in the back. What? And some Swiss, a baby Swiss for you.
Yeah, we used to have a cheddar, but the cats ate it.
Yes. And frickin' cats are always in the fromage. I don't like it. What are they doing? Get them out of the fromage.
And the guy, if you haven't seen the cheese shop sketch, this guy comes in, he orders every cheese under the sun. They don't have it.
Yes.
And by the end of it, the guy playing the lute in the background gets a whole face full of anger.
You are Mr. TCU. By the way, you are. How many do we have this year of TCU?
3 times. I am the frog master, I guess. Yeah. What do you think of them?
I love them. I don't know. They look fast to me. Michigan is supposed to be this bruising team, Jason. I thought that they out-physicaled Michigan. I thought Michigan hurt itself a little bit with play calling. But, hey, they're – all right, let me ask you this, because you've done SEC teams, you've done Big Ten games. I'm going to sit there as it's not a first time. I've watched them. I watched your games with them, particularly the Baylor one. They don't look any different to me than an SEC or Big Ten team in terms of speed and toughness. You tell me.
No, and I don't know if you saw, but there was a quote from one of their defensive players after the game. You know, Michigan went for it on the 4th and goal from about the 1 or 2, wherever it was, on their opening drive. And one of the TCU players said, when they went into their trick bag on 4th and goal, we knew we had them, which is amazing. I know you love the psychology of this and you love watching players' reactions. That, to me, first of all, well-coached team. Second of all, really just absolutely convicted team that they can win. And they've won enough games this year that they're like, hey, we know what it's like when some team doesn't want to run straight at us. That told me a lot about where this team is and where they feel like they can play to.
Well, let me ask you, because you're on the field, you know, and are they? A lot of people want to say this is, you know, Max Duggan. They found this special sauce, this magic. Okay, maybe, but they look talented to me. What do you see when you go on the field to talk before a game with them?
They're really talented. Yeah. I mean, They played without that running back, Kendre Miller, for the balance of that game, and he is tough as hell. I mean, that kid runs through you. Those defensive players have so much of a chip on their shoulder. Look, that's Tate Barber, one of the receivers. They have a lot of talent on the outside, Quentin Johnston and Darius Davis. They are a really good football team that has this understanding. You know how sometimes at the end of a season, especially a college basketball coach is like, finally, these knuckleheads are out of here.
Yeah.
Talking to Sonny Dykes at the end of the regular season, he was talking like a guy who was at the last week of their last summer before going to college. You know how you get like nostalgic for people when they're just about to leave? He was in that mode that he didn't want it to end. And I took that and I was like, I think they're going to have success in the playoff because they want so badly to be with each other and do this together. They have a firm understanding. And I think that's part of why Max Duggan is going to leave. He's not even guaranteed to have the quarterback job next year, right? Like, he did not win the job this season. It's a story that's well told, but I do think spinning it forward, they have no idea what this is going to look like next year. So they are playing for a lifetime of memories. They have enough talent to play up to that level, and they have enough background of success to convince themselves that they can beat anybody. Pardon me. I really think they would have beaten Ohio State. I don't know that they have enough guns to beat Georgia, but I do think they're going to give them a game.
I think anybody that doubts them now is just being foolish and stereotypical of a league that isn't what another league might be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the Big 12, but they hadn't watched Big 12 football this year, is what I would say. Like, you can talk about the Big 12 all you want in previous years when Kansas was terrible. Kansas was good this year. Oklahoma was down, but they were still good. Baylor was still good. Oklahoma State, when everybody was healthy, was a top 15 team. Kansas State, I know they lost to Alabama, but that is a darn good, well-coached, really together football team who has one of the best running backs in the country in Deuce Vaughn. So I think you put the bottom of the Big 12 against the bottom of the SEC, bottom of the Big 12 wins 8 out of 10 times. So it's people who are going on previous narratives. And, that's easy to do because we don't have much time in our days anymore, but it's also foolish.
You and I have talked over the years about a variety of things in the locker room. Guys, I call them like the Seinfeld guys. Like, you take one guy out and it really affects a lot of people. I watch this Max Duggan, and then what I watch is when he comes to the sideline and the teammates' reaction to him. Like, Jason, you'll understand this better than anybody. We talk about guys being all in with coaching staffs, but in football, and maybe starting pitching, I don't know in baseball, but these guys are all in with Max Duggan. They're all in with him.
And as you say that, the one thing that I have seen is if you look at some quarterbacks clip for an entire season of them coming to the sideline, guaranteed somebody's going to roll their eyes and say, like, just stop it. Like, give it up. We're down 15, all that stuff. I have never seen anything but complete buy-in for teammates with Max Duggan. I've never seen the eye roll. I've never seen anybody shy away. They're like all in on high fives. They're all in on paying attention when he talks. It is as together of a team. Like, if they win the national championship, a number of people are going to write books about how it happened, because not only did they have a coaching change, right? And now all the athletic directors are going to want to fire their coaches after 1 year and say, like, well, you didn't do what Sonny Dykes did, so it's all over. But they were picked in the lower half of the Big 12. Like, people did not think they had the talent to do this. And so this is why, and I know people think the salaries are exorbitant, whatever. This is why coaches get paid the money they get paid. And by the way, don't underestimate the strength and conditioning guy that they have. It's a guy who's got a great reputation for building players. And we actually talked to him before the regular season finale. This dude is like locked in on some of the sports psychology that comes along with advanced 2022 college sports and how to get a team to buy in. Because Dan, with the transfer portal, if they lose one game early, they could have lost 5 or 6. But they figured it out. They won a ton of close games. People are going to write books about this TCU team.
I agree. I totally agree. Win or lose, I think it's a fascinating study. I'm gonna piggyback on that. You and I have always talked about different psychology things. I loved what Kirby Smart did with Stetson Bennett after the game by saying, "Look, he's got to play better." And then Bennett said, "Yeah, 30 minutes of bad football by me." I always said this about Bob Knight, and you know this. The best thing he ever did was make you forget when you had a big win, because everybody else going to be kissing your backside, and he's just telling you the way it is. I loved what Smart did, and I love what Bennett followed up with, Jason. Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Uh-oh. What did I do? Did I do something stupid? I'm not surprised if I did. Did we lose him, Dylan? Well, I hope not, because people... What's that?
Hello?
Hey, sorry about that. You got me now?
I think something froze. Something went and done froze.
I said, I was talking about Stetson Bennett's reaction to Kirby Smart.
Yeah. Yeah, so I love that Kirby Smart knows his guy well enough to know that he could do that too, right? And he's bought in enough. And the whole, okay, so there are a couple programs in college football where you just probably shouldn't transfer from, right? They've built up enough. Like Nick Saban told me last year, I think I might have said this on that show you used to do. I like this one. So look, I think I may have said this to you. Nick Saban keeps a file on players who transferred from Alabama and keeps track of how they did at other places. So he can show everybody if you transfer from Alabama, probably you were the problem, right? And so I think Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, those programs that are kind of always there nowadays, fantastic. You probably can't transfer away from there. They are transfer proof because they can get good players in to replace you. So they don't have to do that stuff where they kiss your behind and tell you that you're fantastic. And it's funny that you say that, because I think TCU is the perfect example of the ability to still make a team, a complete team that feels like years past, where transferring isn't really a threat. But it comes from a couple of guys in the core, in the middle of it, saying, I'm not going to transfer. If Max Duggan went into the portal when Chandler Morris won the job, this thing never happens, right? And so if you have a couple guys who you know are of the mindset that they are just not going to transfer, if you push them, if you treat them like that, that's where the team comes from. So I think maybe the next frontier in coaching is truly finding the guys who can be part of your core, who will keep others from transferring.
Well, that's a great point. Think about this quarterback deal. I had Mike Griffins on, who covers Georgia, and he said, look, as good as Stetson Bennett was last year, leading him to a national championship, Kirby Smart tried like crazy to get Caleb Williams here. And then you mentioned the situation with Duggan. I mean, it's a bit fascinating, isn't it, how it worked out with both of these guys?
It's great fortune for both programs. But if Duggan doesn't have a dad who says to him, hey, you had a backup the last 3 years, that's your job now, right? And he doesn't buy that, this whole thing crumbles, or it's something different, right? And so it ends up being good fortune. But I do think like the psychological makeup of players matters so much. I've envisioned this for a while, just thinking about Major League Baseball clubhouses. I wonder if in 20 years, we're getting better and better at like personality tests, right? Where they give you a number based on what you answer like 100 questions to. I wonder if somebody's going to try to say, hey, we need a clubhouse that has 4 6s, 10 3s, and we can only have 1 or 2 1s, right? I wonder if personality tests get that good that somebody just decides to try to analytic the crap out of that. Because I think that's what we're doing, and we're kind of throwing darts at it, right? But you want a Max Duggan. And to know what's inside a Max Duggan, not to say that he wouldn't have transferred from some other place if it was a worse environment. Part of this gives the credit to Sonny Dykes as well. But I do think we might have in like 5, 10 years, 15 years, somebody saying we need to have this combination.
I don't disagree with that at all. You go to Nerd Fests. Isn't that what we're talking about at your Nerd Fest, where you're the guest speaker?
What food do you think they serve at Nerd Fest, Dan?
I think you guys dig into a combination of Crystal if you're from the South and White Castle if you're from the North at Nerd Fest. I think they just go sloppy at Nerd Fest.
No, we have crudité.
I knew you were going to say something like that.
We have crudité and pate. If it doesn't end in an accent mark, we don't have it at Nerd Fest.
Yes.
The dunk tank comes with scuba gear at Nerd Fest. So look, I'm going to pitch it. Maybe I'll be the personality test guy at Nerd Fest.
Yes. Hey, last thing. All right. So I prefaced this as a parent, and I said, man, when Andrew was playing, I was a mess inside. I couldn't imagine being Noah Ruggles' dad when he's walking out there, right? And then I had people say, hey, look, the game was tough for everyone. He needed to step up. And I'm like, all right, maybe. But, man, that was asking a lot, Jason. That was asking too much, in my opinion. I don't know.
The play calling was disastrous.
Disastrous.
Before the kick. I'm going to say, and you know I'm not one of those people who's like a hot take theater guy. It was a disaster play call-wise. Before that, they ran, killed a timeout, and then threw it twice. What matrix, even at Nerd Fest, that matrix doesn't exist, right? Like run it once, kill a timeout, throw it twice, and then I don't know. Here's my thing about it. Noah Ruggles, any kicker, right? Scott Norwood, Bill Buckner in a different situation. Nobody decides they want that for the rest of their life. And they would get a lot of benefit out of it if they do it right. But the negativity that swirls around you for the rest of eternity is really difficult when you're that age. I mean, I thought it was really telling that Noah Ruggles' response was to go to his holder and try to cheer up his holder, right? So I think there's like a pretty sturdy foundation there. I feel for the kid. Like deep inside, I feel for the kid. I also hope that Curb Your Enthusiasm exists for the next 8 years or so they can get Noah Ruggles on like they got Bill Buckner on a couple of seasons ago.
Oh, jeez. At a party in an apartment. Hey, you're Bill Buckner.
Yeah, with a fire.
Last thing before I let you go, let's discuss 30 Rock is America's best written comedy show ever.
You know where we used to sit in America?
Couch.
We used to sit on poles. The episode where he goes into couches and is it Stacy Keach?
Stacy Keach, yeah.
Yeah, just a video. It's like a commercial for couches. And he's like, we used to be tough in America. We used to sit on poles and barbed wire. I would watch that over. And I actually came to that episode the other night at like 11:30 Central Time. And I almost sent you the video of that because I was rolling in bed laughing so hard. But you got to watch closely at 30 Rock because it all just zips by. There was a Patty Duke show riff on the episode I was watching earlier. I was like, what is happening? It's every reference all stacked into it's like the show of Nerdfest, if you could.
It is.
You could imagine.
It is Nerdfest's favorite show. A joke. I read this. A joke every 9 seconds in that show. And
I would take the over for I would take a joke every 6 seconds.
It might have been 6. It was 6 or 9.
It's like walking around with you and Bart Fox and Scott Johnson.
It's a bit. It's just a bit.
It's a bit.
I've kept you way too long. Can't wait to see you. Lee's all fired up. She loves herself some Benetti this Saturday night. It's a celebrity event.
I mean, who doesn't? I love your little studio you got there.
Yeah.
What do you got in the background there? Do you got some mason jars? What do we got going on?
Yeah, no. We're here. We got moonshine. We're here at 6th and Peabody, Old Smoky Moonshine. You see this place. We're in Nashville. We drove up from Florida. We were in Florida for a couple weeks, and this place this is unbelievable, downtown Nashville. This is where Outkick lives, baby, right here.
I love that you were in Florida because I've always thought of you a little bit as a Florida man.
I know. You called this whole mess. You said this whole mess was going to happen. Being paid by Fox.
What mess? You're dressed very well.
No, me being paid by Fox News. You called that as soon as things.
Well, I mean, you're perfect. But you're very well kept right now.
Yeah.
You have 3 stripes on your shirt. They're very nice. They're not like disheveled.
No.
Your hair is perfect.
Yes. Tanned up nicely too. I look good in the tan. I look good in the dark and I look good in the tan. Yep.
You look. Are you one of the There's a Seinfeld episode about the lady who looks good in half light.
Is
that you?
That is me. Only if it's pitch dark, I look great. I'm fantastic.
You look good at in a steam pump ventilation room or something like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So good to talk to you.
All right. I'll see you this
I'll
weekend.
be at Nerd Fest.
Yeah. You'll be Nerd Festing. Yep.
Would you come to Nerd Fest as a guest speaker?
Yeah, I would. I'd be a big hit too. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what you would say at Nerd Fest if it included a play-by-play workshop? You would say, "Get your head out of your board. Stop reading off your board."
Oh man, let's just talk ball. What are you doing? I know you got every freaking analytic. Get out of your board.
Stop reading. So much talking.
You're the best. Happy New Year, my friend. See you this weekend.
You too, Dan.
All right.
I'll see you.
I love that, man. Nerdfest 2023 is coming. It is going to be a celebrity event this weekend in Chicago. My wife, myself, Jason, and I, we're going to dinner. We're going to drink 7 bottles of wine or whatever. Bad news. I want to get to this. Martina Navratilova has announced that she's been diagnosed with throat and breast cancer. Man, I'm a big fan of hers. I thought she was so good, so tough. I loved watching her. Chrissy Everett, Yvonne Goolagong, and all the ladies from back. Don't forget, tomorrow, 9:15, Bruce Pearl is going to join us. Looking very much forward to that. We got Woke-A-Dopes coming here. We got anybody Woke-A-Doping? Uh-oh. Oh, boy. We're masking up again. All right. Tridemic thing is hitting too fast and too furious. Now we're in a triple-demic. I don't know. I want to say that people that put those things out are trying to help us. That's what I want to say. But I don't know how you all are. I don't feel that way. I don't feel that, you know what, they're trying to help us. I feel there's something more nefarious or however you say it. I just don't believe people when they're all of a sudden telling me this. I think COVID's real. I lost a couple friends. No question about it. I know it's real. I got no problem. But this whole mess, and by the way, last thing, wasn't Fauci supposed to be out of business by today? Coming up later this week, Elon Musk has teased this, that the Fauci files are coming out, and you know what that's going to be. That's going to be Fauci is in bed or was in bed with everybody in the government to sell this. I don't know if they were selling vaccines, but I will tell you this. Nobody can tell me differently. Money talks, BS walks. Money talks. And I'm just always been wondering how these politicians and people live in these mansions on $200,000 a year. $200,000 is a lot, don't get me wrong. But I don't know that you can afford a mansion. Hey, by the way, it is going to be me right here this afternoon, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. It's going to be Jonathan Hutton, and I will be filling in for Chad Withrow on Outkick 360, and I'm very much looking forward to doing that. So my wife and I are going to go eat a salad. Oh, yeah. Over under Dee Dee's diets for the year, 23.5. We're already at 1. And this one is 60 days of greatness. Now, some of my diets, my favorite diet ever was I'm not eating at home. I'm just not eating at home. McDonald's, whatever, I'm eating out. I'm not eating at home, and I lost about 10 pounds. Again, I need to look like the folks around here. Everybody that lives down here in the sun is just in great shape. You get up north, you get in Indy, you know what you're doing? You're sitting, watching, and eating. Down here in Nash Vegas, man, you're dancing to some country music. You're drinking vodka, not beer. It's classy down here. All right, thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone that contributed today. Chuck, thank you. Cahaley, thank you. Colin, thank you. Ryan, Dylan, you are the man. Aaron, thanks to everybody. We are going to be back, and I'll be right here at 3 o'clock Eastern time, so join me. Thanks. Happy New Year to all of you, and thanks to all my YouTube friends and Twitter friends and everybody for watching. We'll be back at 3 o'clock right here.